Hello, friends. This is Anthony from Forest Ghost Conversations. Are you looking to get into the podcast game yourself? Well, if you haven't heard about Anchor by Spotify, let me tell you, it's the easiest way to make a podcast with everything you need all in one place. Let me explain. Anchor has some tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Then, when hosting on Anchor, you can even distribute your podcast on listening platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many, many more places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place. And get this, everyone, best of all, Anchor is totally free. Just download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Forest Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week, in anticipation of Star Wars Celebration, I am going to learn all about Disneyland from Mercedes Gleason of the Chat Disney podcast. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter at Forest Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Forest Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms, and also please be sure just to give us a subscription, rate us, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. And without further ado, it's time to gather around the campfire with some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everyone, we're back, and I am so excited to get into the main discussion for our episode. Basically, a crash course into all things Disneyland, Disneyland 101, if you will. For those attending Star Wars Celebration, I imagine that many of you will probably be around the Anaheim area and maybe planning a trip to the Disneyland Resort at some point during your stay, either before or after the convention, or maybe even during. I know there's a Star Wars night during the Friday of May, I believe May 27th, so that Friday of Star Wars Celebration. So we're going to get a crash course in all that on the other side of this break. But before then, let's get into some Star Wars news for this week in the Cloud City Gossip segment. Now, first, we are officially less than a month from the premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi. This new series will premiere on Disney Plus on May 27th with 2 brand new episodes. That's pretty cool, everyone. Be sure to subscribe to Disney Plus and stay tuned here on Force Ghost Conversations as we break down the season week by week. Also, May the 4th be with you. Am I right? If you celebrate May 4th as Star Wars Day, which is at the time of this podcast release, will be the following week, I believe on Wednesday. So if you celebrate May 4th as Star Wars Day, StarWars.com has listed the many deals from various vendors so you can celebrate in the manner that fits best for you. From clothes to games to posters, there's something on sale for every Star Wars fan in your life. Also, and additionally, the full panel list for Star Wars Celebration has been released. If you're going to the convention, be sure to check out the Celebration website so you are prepared in advance for the presentations you would like to attend. And furthermore, for the folks behind the convention, have shared the process for how people will be able to attend the major panels each day, and Force Ghost Conversations will continue to keep you all updated as more news is released in advance of the convention. And on the other side of this break, we'll be back with our main topic for today, a crash course into Disneyland. Okay, everyone, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations. And as I alluded to in the preamble, I am so excited to welcome our first ever returning guest to Force Ghost Conversations, the wonderful Mercedes Gleason from the Chat Disney podcast. Mercedes, welcome back to Force Ghost Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me back on the show.
It is absolutely our pleasure. And I'm very excited to get into a podcast episode and discussion that is basically in your wheelhouse about the Disney and the Disney parks, and specifically Disneyland. And I guess the Disneyland Resort, if you want to get really technical about it, with including California Adventure and the whole surrounding area of it all. But to start, I would love to hear about your first experience in Disneyland. Can you explain your initial reactions and feelings being in the happiest place on Earth?
Absolutely. So just to give a bit of lay of the land, in the UK, it's not very typical to go to Disneyland. We normally, growing up, families will go to either Disneyland Paris or Walt Disney World. However, my best friend and fellow host of the Chat Disney podcast, Tash, she was quite a strange family growing up in that her parents always took her to Disneyland in Anaheim, and
Mm,
that's because her father is a big Disney fan and Disney loyalist, and
nice.
it's the original. So I knew a lot about it, probably more than the average British person, just from hearing her tales. So I really wanted to see the park for myself. And I remember when I first went to Disneyland, and to be honest with you, I was a little underwhelmed. The castle is quite small,
Yeah.
and at that time, it was actually behind scaffolding as well. So I
Oh
don't know
no.
what. Yeah, I know, right? Typical. I don't know what I thought was going to happen when I walked down Main Street USA, like I was going to see the ghost of Walt Disney or so. I don't know, but I was expecting some kind of like real emotional feeling, and I'm not quite sure that came. But
Hmm.
what I would say is, as the trip went on, the floodgates would definitely open when I had to leave. And I think I did feel that emotional connection throughout the trip. But yeah, my initial kind of thoughts walking in was like, it's quite small. But there we are.
Yeah, I mean, I watched they did that wonderful documentary series on Disney Plus that was like the behind the attractions, and the one episode focused specifically on the castles and just to see the evolution of it all. I'm just like, wow, that's a smaller castle there, but I like the cool like perspective angle that they had to do in order to make it seem like it's bigger without actually making it physically taller.
Absolutely. And they've continued to do that. Disneyland Paris also has a Sleeping Beauty castle. So
Hmm.
it's kind of, an homage to the original. And even though the castle is taller, they still use that kind of perspective. And we've seen them use that through Main Street USA and Hollywood Studios, Walt Disney Studios, and so on. So, yeah, I mean, the Imagineering is absolutely incredible. And I was very lucky. And as part of my trip at Disneyland, I got to do the Walk in Walt's Footsteps tour, which is a behind the scenes uh, tour, and you get to go on all of the original attractions that were there on opening day, obviously the ones that are still standing, and they gave you a little bit more of the history and the background, and then the tour finishes by going into the firehouse, into Walt's apartment. And
Oh,
that was,
amazing.
for me, I can't even begin to describe what an amazing experience that was. And I really have to thank my husband, because as you will know, Anthony, and anyone who has listened to the Chat Disney podcast before, my husband is not the biggest Disney fan. And we were going to Disneyland, and he booked the tour for me as a surprise because he knew just what it would mean. And it was just honestly the best thing that I could have done. So yeah, if you are, a proper Walt Disney fan and into the history and that sort of stuff, I would definitely recommend the tour.
Oh, well done to your husband. That's an A plus gift right there. How cool is that? Getting to see the apartment? I mean, I didn't even know that was possible. That
Oh yeah, you can. And they do take your photo. So
nice.
you're not allowed to take photos, but the cast member that accompanies you up there will take one photo of you on your mobile device. So yeah, really
Well,
awesome.
that's fantastic. So I assume probably people at home are wondering why is a Star Wars podcast talking about Disneyland right now? And for the folks at home, if you've been listening to Force Ghost conversations over the last couple of months here, you know that Star Wars Celebration is literally less than a month away at this point. And fortunately, for those that will be in attendance, it is in Anaheim. It's right there at the convention center, literally, as far as I understand, looking at a Google map, blocks away from the entrance to both Disneyland and California Adventure. So, and that's kind of the point of this podcast is do a Disneyland 101 for those of you at home, such as myself, who have not been to the Disneyland area ever before. So, Mercedes, for those that may be attending Star Wars Celebration, which again is taking place in Anaheim, I imagine that many are planning to go to either the Disneyland Resort or California Adventure at some point during their trip. So, what are some like the top tips that you would recommend to those that are planning their vacations?
Yeah, this is a really good shout. And I guess I'll cater this for people that haven't been to Disneyland before. If you are going as part of the Star Wars celebration, obviously you want to touch all of the Star Wars areas. So
Yeah.
you've got Star Tours, of course, but then you've also got brand new Galaxy's Edge as well. And you've got your 2 attractions in Galaxy's Edge that you absolutely don't want to miss: Smuggler's Run, and then, of course, Rise of the Resistance, which is the biggie. And I've not been to Galaxy's Edge yet. I'm going this September to Orlando, and I absolutely can't wait. So they're kind of the Star Wars things that you want to hit. And then I would say for anybody who perhaps hasn't been to any Disney park before, or hasn't been to Disneyland, or it's just a bit of time and you want to really appreciate the unique areas of the park, I think my favorite part of Disneyland, and again, it kind of taps into that whole history and Walt Disney side of it, is the New Orleans area. So I think it's New Orleans Square.
Yeah.
And this is where you have Haunted Mansion, Pirates of the Caribbean. It's totally unique to Disneyland in Anaheim. You don't have anything else like this in the other Disney parks around the world. And not only is it home to 2 of my favorite attractions, but the vibe and the atmosphere in this area is where you watch Fantasmic. So those of you that are familiar with the amphitheater setting in Hollywood Studios, it's totally different in Disneyland. You literally sit on the ground just in the park, like you would watch fireworks or something, but you're sitting on the floor. Yeah, really weird. And it just happens on like the river. So the river that you have it's in Frontierland in Paris, and I'm not quite sure where it is in Walt Disney World. I think it's Frontierland as well. This kind of runs past New Orleans Square, and you literally just sit on the ground. So really amazing atmosphere in the evening, the music, the jazz. You've got the beignets there, and of course the mint julep as well, which was Walt Disney's favorite cocktail, and you can enjoy this in New Orleans Square as well. So that's definitely one area that I absolutely think you need to hit. And then I guess with regards to California Adventure, and I'm sure we'll touch upon this throughout today's episode, something that was really wild to me was that I went to California Adventure with very low expectations. I didn't know an awful lot about it, to be completely honest with you. And I absolutely loved it. So then when I went back and watched the Imagineering series and saw how it was essentially just a parking lot that they needed to fill, and it kind of didn't really know what it was, and now they're kind of going back and trying to rectify everything, I was really shocked because I was hugely impressed with California Adventure. I liked how relaxed it was. And I really liked some of the attractions there, Soaring, the Incredicoaster. It's got some real sort of big e-ticket attractions. So yeah, I've mentioned lots of different things there, but obviously the Star Wars stuff, definitely hit up New Orleans Square. And yeah, don't dismiss California Adventure.
Well, I'm glad that you brought up California Adventure a bit, and some of you alluded to some of the top attractions there, but you mentioned it already, and if those at home that haven't already, go watch the Imagineering story. It is phenomenally well done in terms of just a documentary series. You will not regret watching it. But California Adventure and Disneyland Resort are vastly different parks. Just even looking at the maps on the Disneyland app, right? There's a lot difference between the two of them. What are some like the can't miss attractions at both parks that you would really recommend to our viewers that or listeners that maybe only have one day in each park?
Sure. So I think for me, in the main Disneyland park, the Indiana Jones ride, I absolutely would rate. And the reason why is because it's just so unique, and it is a really cool ride as well. So it's kind of like a hybrid of the Indiana Jones section in the Great Movie Ride and also Dinosaur in Animal Kingdom. It's really awesome. And we do have an Indiana Jones roller coaster in Paris, but that's completely different to this. This is like a dark ride, like in like a doom buggy, like you're being shaken around. There's like snakes, like the rolling ball is coming towards you. It's epic. And I could have missed this quite easily. It was just like, should we check this out? We'll see what it is. It's actually amazing. So that's the first attraction. I don't know if you're familiar with this ride.
Oh no, I've never. I mean, I've never been out there. I've only heard rumblings that it's good. I just have in my head like the stunt show that they do in Florida, Indiana Jones, and I'm so excited to go on that ride. It just is a Lucasfilm fan, right? Indiana Jones is now a part of the Disney family, but it originally was done by Lucasfilm and still is done by Lucasfilm. So love Indiana Jones, love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
You're speaking to my heart right now.
Yeah, good. Okay, so that one definitely, obviously, Galaxy's Edge is an obvious one. So we'll go away from Galaxy's Edge. So I think that one, just as I say, it's really awesome, but also totally unique.
Mhm.
I think for the main Disneyland park as well, other unique things are the Matterhorn, which is kind of like I hate to say this, but it's like a poor man's Expedition Everest, really. Um, so it's an original ride. Walt wrote it. Walt, helped the Imagineers to create it, so it's cool in that sense.
Mhm.
There's also an Alice in Wonderland dark ride as well, which there isn't in any other park in the world. So that's
Ooh.
another unique attraction. And then after that, it's all, my favorites that I go on everywhere around the world. So you've got Star Tours, and it's the Adventure Continues. So it's exactly the same as the other versions of it, where you've got like the randomization of the different scenes. So that's really cool. And I just love that attraction. And I'd say that's it in terms of the main park, because
Mhm.
everything else you can ride in other places. Obviously, Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, they're the first one, so you probably want to take them off. But yeah, you'll be familiar with them. And then moving over to California Adventure, I would probably have to say the Incredicoaster, which was previously known as California Screaming. That's really awesome. And you've got your usuals in there as well. You've got Soaring. That was obviously the original Soaring, the first one ever. Soaring over California is now soaring over the world as well. And you've also got Toy Story Mania in that park as well. But again, it's your standard Toy Story Mania. There was something else that I was about to say that's completely escaped my brain while I was talking about unique attractions. I thought of something else. I'm sure it will come back to me.
Okay.
But yeah. Oh, the Cars area. That's
Oh,
it.
yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm sure you've probably seen pictures of this, like just floating around online. But the whole Radiator Springs area is so, so well executed.
Mm.
Just walking around there, like, with a beer or some nachos, whatever your vice is. It's really awesome, and it's really cool to do it in the day, but then also at nighttime when they light it all up.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I would definitely, again, I think, cars, people think, oh, cars, and kind of dismiss it. But that area is amazing. And then I guess, California Adventure as well. We obviously have just done a Marvel episode on Chat Disney together, and you've
Mhm.
just reminded me as well of course, how could I forget? Hollywood Tower Hotel is Guardian's Mission Breakout in Disneyland. And I mean, this was something that, as a huge Hollywood Tower Hotel fan, I was quite mortified about when I heard about this, right? And I love the Guardians, but I was quite upset about this.
Hmm.
And rather controversially, I have to say, I actually think it's better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I don't know if that's a hot take or not. I'll have to report back on it and let you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that have actually been on it, like there's a lot of, I mean, Diz Twitter can be a very negative and dark place anyway. And there's a lot of people that have a lot to say about it, but haven't been on it.
Mhm.
So I think, I'll try anything once. I'm a very opinionated person, but if I haven't experienced something for myself, I don't really feel like I can give an opinion. So it was very important to me that I went on it. I know there are a lot of people that are like, I'm not even going to go on it. And it was like, no, come on, we need to see what this is all about.
Yeah.
And the actual ride mechanism, I don't want to spoil it for you, but they've updated that. So it's much more intense and thrilling than the Hollywood Tower Hotel
Oh, it's
was.
more intense.
Yes, yeah. But it kind of like it's really interesting. Okay, this is a really weird analogy, and this is just how my brain works. You know how the whole plot of Monsters Inc. is that they realize that instead of screams to sort of fuel
Mhm.
Monstropolis, they can use laughter. I feel like that's what's happened with this. I feel like they realized that just by tweaking the mechanism slightly, it's still that same sensation of dropping, but instead of the screams of terror, it's
Mm.
this kind of giddy like laughter. I remember just laughing the entire, as soon as I was strapped in, we were off, and I just felt giddy and full of euphoria the entire time.
Oh,
And
good.
Yeah, it's really cool. And what's really awesome about it as well is that every time you ride it, you have a slightly different experience and the music changes as well.
Nice. Well, I've never been on the Tower of Terror before.
Oh, really?
I am gonna share some news about me right now that I honestly I'm not super into thrill rides for the
Okay.
most part. I
Okay.
am terrified of roller coasters. Um, I have somehow been on Rock and Roller Coaster twice in my life, and those are wild experiences for everybody on board. I somehow have also been on, I believe it's what, the Mission to Mars spaceship or Mission to
Oh,
Mars twice.
Mission
The
Space.
the
Oh,
hard version, not the green version. I wish I would have done the green version twice. I've done that twice, and that's more enjoyable than the orange track.
yeah.
So me getting on roller coasters is a wild experience to begin with. I love Expedition Everest. That might be my favorite ride over at World at this point, but I don't know
Okay.
what it's the difference there on that one. But I am going. I mean, I love the Guardians, so I'm gonna buck up
Gotta do it. Do
and do
it.
it. Um,
Yeah,
I did
do it.
I did want to pick your brain a little bit about a few that you did note here in a bit more detail. So you're as of this week, you're in great company with that Cars discussion here. I watched Cars 3 for the first time this last week.
No way. I watched Cars 3 for the first time 2 weeks ago.
Well,
That's so
check that
weird.
out.
How
And
weird is that?
and it's very odd and small world, I guess, right? But I don't know. I want to speak for you, but I frankly really loved it. I thought it
Yeah.
was, I completely subverted my expectations after Cars 2 and brought it kind of back down to earth from the first one in many ways. And it only made me more excited to at least walk past Cars area. But I listened to another um, Disney podcast this week that the person went to Disneyland for the first time as well. And they were just raving about Radiator Springs. They said it was their favorite ride in the entire resort, and they
Wow.
kind of alluded to it being similar to like test track. Is that would you make that same statement?
Yeah, definitely. It's a dark ride. It's yeah, it's a dark ride that then kind of turns into Test Track. It's definitely more family friendly than Test Track. It's like
Hmm.
a tamer version, and then obviously because you've got the Cars IP in there, it's a little bit more Disney than Test Track. So yeah,
Right.
I wouldn't say it was one of my favorite attractions, but and it does have very long queues, but it was one of those attractions where it was like I don't really care how long the queue is. I have to ride this because it's kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Right.
But that area in general just hugely impressed me. And yeah, I liked Cars 3 too. I think the reason that I hadn't watched it was because I was so disappointed with Cars 2
Hmm.
that I thought, nah. And then how strange. Yeah, I literally watched it like 2 weeks ago for the first time. But
I
no,
was
I
like,
just love that whole franchise.
fantastic. Well, yeah, I was putting together an exercise bike for my wife and myself, and I just threw on some background noise. I was like, oh, I guess might as well put on a movie I've never watched before,
Yeah.
cross it off the list. And boy, I found myself just watching the entire movie at the end. Poor exercise bike took a little bit longer to put together.
Oh, bless. I think now that I know that you're not that into coasters, I probably would say that you will really enjoy the Matterhorn
Oh,
because
okay.
you said about Expedition Everest, and it's kind of like if Expedition Everest and Thunder Mountain had a baby, it would be the Matterhorn. So I
Okay.
think you would like that. What I would say is, how are you with heights?
Well, I think I'm okay with heights. Well, maybe I'm not based off of how I'm gonna qualify it here in a second. Is like I can do inside in the dark roller coasters. Like no, it's like Space Mountain, love it. Right, that's my jam. I can do it night and day. Well, because it's inside, right? I can do it any time of the day. Um, the Rock and Roller Coaster is only okay because it's dark. It's just it's that initial like blast off that they do that gets me. Um, but once that's done, I'm usually okay the rest of the way. It's like the fact that I can't see where I'm going is the okay thing. So I don't know if maybe that is like a hidden like I don't like heights kind of
Possibly.
deal.
I think what I would say, and this is like my hot take on Disneyland for anyone listening, when you think of Disneyland in California, if you've never been before, for me, the sort of apart from the castle, the vision that I wanted to have, or the view, I should say, that I wanted to have was that amazing area in California Adventure where you've got the lake and then you've got the Mickey Ferris wheel and the coaster. And so naturally, I see this iconic site and think, well, got to go on that Mickey Ferris wheel. It's got to be done. The worst decision of my entire, like, honestly, this thing. So it's called the Pixar Pal Around, but I don't know why it's called that, because I don't think they want you to be pals at the end of it. It caused like
No.
many arguments with me and my husband. So yeah, it's called the Pixar Pal Around, and it's honestly the worst experience of my entire life. It's a bit like, how you were talking about Mission Space and how there's the orange version and the green version. So on this Pixar Pal Around, or the Mickey Ferris wheel, Mickey's Fun Wheel, whatever it used to be called, there's like the normal version where you just go around, and then I really don't know how to explain this very well, but essentially within the Ferris wheel, you've got these mini little circles, and you sort of go round within the bigger circle. Basically, it's a horrible, dizzy, hideous experience from a great height. It's super slow, so you're on it for a long time. It's not like if you're hating it, it's going to be over really quickly. It's awful. And I've recounted this story before on the Chat Disney podcast. My husband and I were sat with a very elderly Asian gentleman, and he was just howling the whole time. He was with a toddler who I assume was a grandchild, and he was just the whole time going, like this. And I was just, honestly, I'm good with heights as well. I don't have an issue with heights, but because of the wind, I think we took the easy version as well.
Oh
but
my
it's
goodness.
just, yeah, I mean, yeah, just I really wouldn't recommend anyone went on that unless they especially enjoyed Ferris wheels.
You have solidified me not going on it. I was already planning on not, based off of the horror stories I've seen on Disney TikTok about they'll just show people swaying
Oh,
on a breezy
yeah.
day.
I haven't seen that. I'm definitely like that. That sounds very in keeping with the experience that I had. It was traumatic.
Oh, I can feel the trauma already.
I
I will
know.
gladly sit and watch from a distance and just
Yeah,
enjoy the ambiance as it's
that's
going.
it. You just want to see it like when you walk in and everything. But yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, now that I know this about you, maybe I would slightly refine my suggestions. I definitely wouldn't advise the Incredicoaster for you.
You say no to that, okay? Because that was going to be my next question was about, do you recommend it or not? My wife wants me to go on it. She's basically saying like, you need to go on this. We're going on it, basically.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, sure, anything for you.
I mean, I love it, but it's two of the things that you just expressed you're not comfortable with. It's a launch coaster and it's outside. So I don't know if it's the
But
best
it doesn't
fit.
have like big loops and stuff like that where you're going
I
in a
think
circle, right? Because it's a wooden coaster, right? You would think that's not
no.
possible. Oh, it's not?
No,
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it has at least one inversion.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has an inversion. I could be wrong, but I feel like it does. It's definitely not wooden.
Oh, well, I love my wife, so we'll see. We'll see what
I really
happens.
enjoyed it. It's cool. Like they rethemed it just after Incredibles 2 came out.
Mhm.
And you've got like that narrative of like the Jack Jack Num Num cookies, and yeah, it's a cute theme.
Well, I believe they have Jack Jack Num Num cookies around the Incredicoaster, so I might have to reward myself with one if and when I survive this
They do. They have
attraction.
many awesome Pixar snacks. So what was Paradise Pier? They've basically rebranded that now, Pixar Pier.
Mhm.
And so there's also where you can get the Senor Buzz churros, which is quite cool. So there's a nice like little kiosk, and it's themed around when Buzz turned Spanish in Toy Story 3.
Ah, yes.
And you've got Angry Dogs as well, which is anger from Inside Out, and you pick how spicy you want the hot dog based on like the anger. So there's like furious, like I don't know what's more angry than furious. That's probably the spiciest one. Raging, I don't know. So that's quite cute. Yeah, I really like the theming of California Adventure, and there's just, I think for me, I'm very, very lucky, and I'm very aware of the privilege and the experiences that I've been able to have. And I've visited 4 out of the 6 Disney parks around the world now. So for me personally, anything unique that I know I can't experience anywhere else in the world is
Mhm.
always going to be a highlight when I go to a Disney park.
Great. Well, I'm very excited to go to California Adventure. You've only made me more excited for this as we get closer to our upcoming trip here.
Yeah.
So, in my next question here, this is a bit more about modern Disney and the parks, they're run and how you experience the parks now. And this is something that's come up, I think, in the last year. It's been since what, September, August, something like that. But Genie Plus is the new Fast Pass or Lightning Lane system at Disneyland Resort, even Disney World now too. I believe. I'm not sure if it's over at Paris or anywhere else around the world. I know I've seen on Twitter that you all got something very similar coming soon, maybe. But can you explain a little bit more about this technology? What is it? What does it entail? And how does it really work? To be honest.
Yeah, for sure. So the thing is, it's very confusing. This is the first thing that you you need to know. And a lot of people have been joking, we need degrees now to go to these parks because it's so
Basically, yeah.
confusing. Yeah, 100%. The good news is, if you're listening to this and you've been to Walt Disney World and you've got your head around the Walt Disney World system, the Disneyland one's a little bit easier in that you don't have to book park reservations or anything like that. You can just turn up on the day and decide which park you're going to go into. You can hop back and forth.
Hmm.
And the other thing, I guess, just while we're touching upon that to note, is that in Walt Disney World, obviously, if that's what you're familiar to, you have to get a bus or a boat or a train or whatever it is to your destination. Whereas you literally can just cross the road and you're in California Adventure. So it's a 2-minute stroll to nip between the parks. So very, very doable to park hop. So Disney Genie is a free planning app that allows you essentially to put in some of your preferences when you're going to a Disney park, and then the Disney Genie will formulate a sort of advised itinerary for you. And I've been experimenting with this a lot at home. And bearing in mind, I don't really hide the fact that I hate It's a Small World. And every single time I put like a Magic Kingdom itinerary down, it wants me to go on It's a Small World. I'm kind of not that sure about how well this itinerary works. I would say that if you are going to a Disney park for the first time ever, you know, you're not very informed. I mean, hey, you're probably not listening to this podcast if you're not very informed when it comes to Disney. But if you are a bit of a noob and you haven't watched the YouTube videos, you haven't listened to the podcast, then yeah, Disney Genie is a nice planning tool that might just help push you in the right direction and maybe encourage you to explore things that you didn't even know were there. And then Disney Genie Plus is the sort of paid for add-on to that free planning tool. And this is essentially what FastPass was. So
Hmm.
Disney Genie Plus gives you the ability to queue jump if you are in a Disney park. And I wish that was the end of it, but unfortunately it's not. It's way more complicated than that. So with the Disney Genie Plus, it's not for all attractions. The attractions that are available, you basically go in, you book your attraction when you get into the park. It gives you a time slot to come back to, very, very similar to the old FastPass system. You can't have 2 bookings at once, so you have to wait either to go on the attraction, or I think it's for 2 hours to pass before you can book your next one, whichever one comes first. There are also, in addition to this, something that we call lightning lanes. And these are even more exclusive attractions. So, your Rise of Your Resistance, that kind of stuff, where even if you've paid for your Disney Genie Plus, if you want to queue jump those attractions, you have to pay an additional cost to use a lightning lane, which is exactly the same as FastPass, basically. But that is an additional cost. And yeah, it's hugely confusing. The good news is the Walt Disney World and the Disneyland systems are pretty much the same. As I say, Disneyland's slightly easier because you've not got the added pressure of park reservations and not being able to queue park hop and all that kind of stuff. Paris is a whole other ball game that we won't go into, even more complex, arguably.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because it's really interesting to me because a lot of people are blaming COVID and blaming kind of, Disney leadership for this. Bob Chapek is obviously the one who's kind of at the brunt of this. And,
Hmm.
Disney are not putting the guests first and yada, yada, yada. You had to pay for FastPass in Disney Shanghai when it opened in 2016. So
Wow.
I don't think this is a new thing that's just happened overnight. I think that they tested the waters in Disneyland in Shanghai. There are a lot of things they did in Shanghai that we're now seeing trickled out. Paris
Mm.
is normally a guinea pig as well. So we actually had something in Paris called Premier Access about 2 years ago, just before the pandemic, and that was paid for Fast Pass. So I don't think that it's fair to, don't get me wrong, I think that there are lots of decisions that Disney leaders have made recently that I don't agree with, but I don't think this is necessarily off the back of the COVID pandemic or, the change in CEO or anything like that. They were charging for Fast Pass in Shanghai in 2016. Like, this has been coming for a while, I believe.
Agreed. It's like, what else are you gonna do, right? It's Disney. You're gonna be there. Everyone wants to be on these high anticipated and everybody wants to be on these attractions, right? So I mean, they're gonna try and make money off of it, and that's the way I look at it is sometimes a non cynical way. You pay now and you get to do a cool ride 10 years down the line, right? It's an investment in the parks and in the Disney brand, and it helps fund other things down the line. So
Yeah.
that's
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 a
how I kind
nice
of rationalize my head around it a little bit here, just to make it little easier as I'm
Yeah,
fronting that
I
bill.
think so. I think so. And it's easy to look back and reminisce of the way things used to be. And especially when we look at Walt Disney World now, the cost for things that used to come, included. But that's not exclusive to Disney. That's just the way of the world, and it's awful. But
Right.
we're having an energy crisis at the moment in the UK. Our energy bills are going up by 80%. Is to do with Brexit and COVID.
Wow. Oh,
Yeah, it's
I'm sorry to
terrible.
hear that.
It's really awful, and the thing is, those affected are the ones that are in poverty, right? And they're literally having to make decisions as to whether they can have dinner or whether they can pay for the electric. It's awful. And small things like carrier bags, we have to pay for carrier bags now because we're trying to, I mean, that's for a good reason, that's because of the
Hmm.
environment, but anyway,
Yeah.
the world changes. And if you are still able to get to Disneyland, there are families that are being priced out. There are families that, I saw something on Twitter recently, it was deeply sad. It was an American family that was saying that they go to Orlando every single year as a family, and 2022 is the first year they're not
Hmm.
going to be able to do that because they've just been priced out. So yeah, it is hard, and I appreciate that, but at the same time, there's nothing new here. Like, costs go up, inflation is a thing.
Yeah.
And as you say, they know that there will be people that will pay it. So
Well, and also these rides that they put together are not cheap. And as we get more inclusive and expanded storytelling creative methods, I mean, Rise of the Resistance is probably the peak of what they've been able to create Imagineering wise right now, until Tron opens up in California, or sorry, not Florida, and then Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind opens up, I believe at the end of the month too. Like, there, our tastes as consumers are only going up, and they got to front that bill too.
yeah, definitely. Can I just say though, I've actually ridden Tron because
Oh,
obviously
you have?
that's the Shanghai ride.
Oh, I didn't know you've been to the Shanghai park.
Oh yeah, yeah. So Tash lived in China, my co-host at Disney.
Oh,
Yeah,
for
this is a
real?
whole other. Yeah, we'll talk about this another time. But yeah, so
Oh,
I went out there and visited her for the grand opening. So I've done Tron, and I think that Rise of the Resistance is probably more of Tron's great, but Rise of the Resistance, I haven't been on it yet, but I've watched lots of walkthroughs and things like that. And oh my God, anyone that's going to the Star Wars celebration like this week to go on that ride, like, I'm hugely, hugely jealous. I would love to do that. I've actually never been to any Disney park on May the 4th before, but what I have done
wow.
is something called Star Wars, the Season of the Force. I had to think about
The
that.
Season of the Force. I love the sound of
Yes.
it.
Yes, you would love it. So I think it's to do with low season and just trying to encourage people to go. But pretty much every January in Disneyland Paris, it's the Season of the Force. And they have like this basically take over, and everything is Star Wars themed, and they have like, you know, a brass orchestra when you walk into Walt Disney Studios playing like John Williams music and
Hmm.
Cantina band and all that kind of stuff. And they have like little shows where, you know, the stormtroopers will just randomly walk down Main Street USA and you're like, what's going on? And they'll do a special firework projection show on the Hollywood Tower, and it's a Star Wars themed show that's really awesome. And they have meet and greets with Ray and Chewie, and yeah, I've been lucky enough to do that twice, and it's always amazing. So yeah, I'd love to go for Star Wars weekends. I think they still do Star Wars weekends in May in Walt Disney World. I haven't heard anything about it this year, so maybe that was a COVID
Honestly, I
casualty.
think it might have been a COVID casualty. I think I think it honestly has been. I will say, in the Star Wars theme of it all, they are doing, I think, 3 Disneyland Star Wars nights, where they get special tickets, I believe, where you can only go to Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
Um, so, and one of those nights is the Friday of Star Wars Celebration. So I know a lot of people that are going to the convention are partaking in that. I will be
Okay.
not there. I will be at a hopefully a nice restaurant at Disney, downtown Disney, enjoying a relaxing evening after Kenobi comes out that day.
Oh yeah, I know, it's all
It's
happening.
all happening at the same time. Yep.
Well, this is it. I'm gonna be. I mean, hey, there's worse places to be, but I'm gonna be in the Maldives this week, so I'm like toes and fingers and everything crossed that I have good Wi-Fi at my hotel, or I'm gonna be really frustrated.
Well, I'm telling you this. Maldives is where Rogue One was filmed.
Stop. That
Yeah.
can't be true.
Oh, it's true. That's the third
Wait,
act. Scarif is the Maldives. Yep.
what?
So when you're there on the beach or doing what you're doing, you can pretend like you're Jyn Erso and and stealing the Death Star plans.
Wow, I'm gonna have to watch that now. That I can't, I actually can't fathom that. I think also people think of the Maldives as like this really like gorgeous, idyllic paradise, and I'm sure for most people it is. But my forecast on my phone for the next week is just consistent thunder and lightning. So
No.
I really will. I'll have that like moody kind of grey like mise en scene that they have in Rogue One as well.
Oh my goodness. Well, I hope it clears up. That would be terrible. I hope
Yeah.
it clears up. I
Oh
know you've been
my
waiting for this
God.
for a while, so
Yeah, right. Oh my God, I did not know that. That's awesome. And yeah, the more you know.
exactly. Well, getting back to Disneyland here, what is a Disney park without food? You've talked about some of the great offerings that are already around Pixar Pier, but what are some of the best food, treats, drinks, and restaurants, both at Disneyland Resort and at California Adventure, that you would recommend to people that
Oh,
might be visiting the parks?
best question ever. I mean, I honestly am not exaggerating when I say that food is my favorite reason to go to Disney parks. It's the thing that gets me the most excited. And I know that's weird, but it is. And I also, and this is a very bold statement, but I would say that of the 4 Disney resorts that I've been to, the food at Disneyland is hands down the best, like
Wow. Okay.
by a country mile, like 100%. It's so good. So, so good. So my standouts, they're kind of, most of these are snacks. So I apologize. Oh, actually, one of them's not. So, okay, sorry. I'm just so excited. My brain's like,
I love it.
just,
I love
yeah.
it. I got a pen and paper. I'm ready to write down every single
Write
one of
it
these.
down. So, the first one that I highly recommend is the Blue Bayou restaurant. Now, this is the restaurant that's in that amazing New Orleans Square section that we spoke about. And it's inside the Pirates of the Caribbean attraction. So, as you're eating your dinner, the boats go past whilst you're eating. If you do want to eat here, I would definitely recommend making your reservation. And then the morning of your reservation, pop to the restaurant and just say, hey, my name's Anthony. I've got a restaurant reservation at 6 or whatever time it is. Please, can I request to be near the water? And they can't guarantee, but they'll try and do what they can to get you that waterside seat. So definitely recommend doing that. There's also a Fantasmic dinner package. I don't know if this was a COVID casualty, but they used to have a Fantasmic dinner package. So you could dine at Blue Bayou, and then so that you didn't have that horrible, like, crazy mosh pit experience that can be Fantasmic at Disneyland, you get taken to like a little private viewing area, like right at the front, which is, yeah, I mean, you'll have seen Fantasmic in in Hollywood Studios, and I don't want to ruin it, but the Fantasmic at Disneyland is even better.
Okay.
I don't even
Okay.
know if it's running right now. I don't know if it's back.
I'm gonna check it out as soon as we're done
If
with
it,
this call here. I'm gonna
if
look
it
it up.
is, it's worth doing, because even though they have it at Hollywood Studios, there's one moment in particular that they have in California that they don't have there, and it's like amazing. So yeah, that's awesome. Definitely recommend Blue Bayou. And you can also get the very famous Disneyland Monte Cristo sandwich from Blue Bayou as well.
Mm.
They have brought the Monte Cristo to Walt Disney World for the 50th anniversary, but it's normally exclusive to Disneyland. So that's where you can get that guy. The donut stand by the castle is another like must do experience. So they have different flavored donuts every single day, just depending on what donut they want to make. And like you can get Dole Whip flavored donuts. And if you get the Dole Whip one, it will come with like a cute little umbrella. There's like I had a mini donut that was strawberry lemonade flavor. Like they're just really random concoctions. They change them every day. So definitely grab yourself a donut. I would say I'm trying to think of things that aren't at Walt Disney World, especially for you. But obviously, anyone going, you've got your usuals, your pretzels, your Dole Whips, and all that kind of stuff. The beignets is a big one as well, because
Mhm.
again, it's exclusive to Disneyland. And then I guess in terms of places to eat, like restaurants, things like that, the Lamplight Lounge in California Adventure. You're smiling. Is this already on your
I've got a
list?
reservation already.
Oh, yay! I'm so pleased. That's amazing, because depending on what time you go, I had cocktails at the Lamplight Lounge, and it was like, I don't know what time it was, but the sun was setting. So whatever time that was in March. And honestly, the view, I took this amazing video of the lake. It was just before World of Color.
Mm.
And it was just so peaceful. Like you wouldn't know you're in a theme park because you're right by the water. You couldn't hear like the screams of guardians or the Incredicoaster. It just felt so magical. I hate using that word when I'm
Wow.
talking about Disney because it sounds like a cliche. But yeah, Lamplight Lounge is definitely one that I would recommend. And then there's also the, I forget what it's called. It's a bakery. It's not Main Street Bakery. I almost want to say Carnation Cafe, but it's on Main Street, and they do something called a Matterhorn macaroon, and that
Ooh.
is amazing. And it's not a macaron. It is
Is that
definitely
macaroon?
it's definitely a macaroon. It's a coconut macaroon, and it's in the shape of the Matterhorn. And then it has like white chocolate drizzled down it for like the snow-capped mountain.
Mm.
So that's really cool. And yeah, they're probably my picks. Obviously, the mint julep I already mentioned. You have to do that. You mentioned the Jack Jack Num Num cookie. Yeah, it's all the snacks.
Fabulous. Well, I'm excited, so excited to check out some of these places. Now, I imagine the Blue Bayou is a hot ticket place to get into. So
Mm.
we're gonna see if we can maybe scrounge up a res.
Yeah, see what you can do. I didn't realize that they had that there actually until we were sort of, planning our trip. We have that. It used to be called the Blue Lagoon at Disneyland, but it's now
Mm.
been rethemed. It's called at Disneyland Paris. It's now called Captain Jack's, and
Oh, I love it.
yeah, it's got like a real like pirates theme now, and like they have like a Jack Sparrow meet and greet type. Like it's like a character. Well, it's not a guaranteed character meal, but I mean, every time I go there, he's there, so it pretty much is, and that's quite cool as well. But yeah, it's weird because I always forget that that's not a thing at Walt Disney World, because I think that that is a thing everywhere else. So yeah,
Hey, we're gonna give it our best chance to get a chance to get in there.
yeah, do
It's
it, do
almost like
it.
a full time job trying to get reservations for some of these places
I
where you're
know.
constantly hounding the app if there's any openings.
Yeah, so that's something that's exactly the same as Walt Disney World. And yeah, I've got a diary, like a calendar reminder to tell me when it's 60 days or 90 days, whatever it is, before my Walt Disney World trip, so that I can get in there and get those reservations, because it's just
You gotta get them, otherwise, if you're a few hours late, you lost them.
yeah. And I guess that kind of leads me as well to Ogre's Cantina, which I've obviously not been to, but that's like a staple as well.
Yeah, I mean, I as a funny story here, it was 60 days out in like mid March or something like that, and I awoke at 6 a.m. like I believe you're supposed to. That's when you can start. 6 a.m. Eastern time, I will say. So it's 6 a.m. where I'm at, and was trying to get my reservation, and I thought I got one for the day that I'm going to be there at 8:30 a.m. And said to my wife, "Well, we're gonna have a great time early in the morning." Turns out I got a reservation for that day.
Oh
And I
god.
didn't understand because the app sometimes, apps aren't user friendly sometimes. So I accidentally got one for that Saturday morning. And so then I had to call. Good thing it's a 3 hour time difference, so I was able to call them up and avoid the fee for not showing up, because that's another thing for you folks at home. If you don't show up to your reservations, they will charge you.
Mhm.
Counts for anything. If it's food or I have a lightsaber, I did the same thing for the lightsaber build. And if you don't show up to that, that's $200 that you missed out on, that you get charged automatically for. So I called them up and got that
Wow.
transferred to the day I'm going to be there. And
Oh
then,
god.
of course, all the dates or all the reservations for Oga's has been taken up. So we're gonna try and
There's
walk up
still
and yep, there's still
Yeah,
time.
there's still time. I think it'll be okay. People do cancel, especially the 24 hours prior,
Hmm.
as you experienced. You got an 8:30 a.m. Reservation that day. But yeah, I think for me, that's one thing that is very good being in the UK, because obviously I won't have to wake up at 6 a.m. It will be like, I think it's like 11 a.m. for me or something like that. So
Yes, you
yeah,
get to sleep in a bit more.
a little bit. But I'll be there ready. I've actually, like, that day as well. God, I hope my boss isn't listening to this, but I've blocked my calendar so that no one can put a meeting in at 11, because I'm like, I know what I'll be doing at 11 o'clock on that day. So
Brilliant.
there
That's
we
it's just for your mental health. You just have
are.
to. You let your boss know you'll be a better employee afterwards if you know this is taken care of, and that's just the peace of mind of
Yeah.
letting you have this little time for yourself.
Yeah, I feel like, and it's so difficult for people that don't know. It's like, look, imagine you're trying to get Glastonbury tickets and times it by 1,000. Like, that's how serious this is and how present I need to be. But yeah, I have some friends that are going to Walt Disney World next week, and they managed to get all of their reservations, but not on the day. They've been just refreshing the app and checking, and they managed to get the ones that they couldn't get initially. So there is hope if you don't get them immediately.
There is hope, and there are like some like sites that you can sign up for, like alerts. They'll email you
Ooh.
if a space does become available. So look for those things. You
Oh,
can even pay someone to do it for you. to be, you can pay like $15 for a person to like constantly monitor it, and then they'll just get it for you if something does come available. I mean, you run the risk of nothing.
$15?
Something like
Are you
that. I
kidding?
don't quote me on that, but it is something like that.
That's so cheap.
It's like, but it's per restaurant though, so it does
Oh,
add up if
okay.
you want to do a lot.
I thought you meant you just pay them $15 and they'll check all the
Oh, I
reservations.
wish. I wish it was
I
only
was like, "That's so
$15.
cheap." That's like £10, like, so cheap.
If
Oh,
only.
there you are.
Well,
Amazing.
I did have a follow up to this question here. I think over the last week you have discovered my endearing love of Mickey waffles. Where in the world can I find a Mickey waffle at Disneyland?
So the Mickey waffles at Disneyland are gonna be at any kind of breakfast location.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're staying at a Disney hotel or not. You're
No, we're
not.
not.
Okay, so that rules that one out. Carnation Cafe that I mentioned earlier, whether I meant Carnation Cafe earlier or not, I can't remember, but I do mean it now. They definitely have them. And I think there's a place, you have what's it called? Is it Sleepy Hollow in Orlando, where you can get like funnel cake with like whipped cream and cherries and stuff? I think that's
Yeah,
what
it
it's
sounds
called.
about right.
We'll go with that. It's not, it's either Liberty Tree Tavern or Sleepy Hollow. I think it's Sleepy Hollow. They do have a similar place like that in California as well, where you can get, like, I think it's actually the ice cream parlor, but you can get like funnel cake and things with whipped cream and like a glacier cherry on top. And I
Mm.
definitely saw a Mickey waffle version of that as well. And then, of course, the buffet at, and I'm going to butcher this because it's called something different in every single Disney park, but the Crystal Palace, or it might not be called that there. But basically, there's always that restaurant, like if you're in the main hub of the Magic Kingdom, there's that like big, I think it's Plaza Inn or Plaza Gardens
Yeah, I think you're
in
about right. Yeah.
I think it's Crystal Palace in Disneyland, or that could be Disneyland Paris, but whatever it's called. Actually, I think maybe Plaza Inn. It doesn't matter. That Glass Hub restaurant where they do character breakfasts, you'll definitely be able to get your Mickey waffles there as well.
Well, I am looking forward to it. I've been craving them for years. I haven't been to a Disney property since 2012. So so
Stop it! What, Orlando?
and that was yep. I've only been to Disney World twice, and that's my only two times being at Disney properties, and that was in 2006 and 2012. And
Okay, so this is weird. This is like the Cars 3 thing. I haven't been to Walt Disney World since 2012.
heyo,
How strange is
I
that?
was
But
there Christmas week, so that was
oh, I was there in August, September time, so a little bit before. But yeah, that's why I'm just so pumped that I'm going this year, because it's been 10 years, which yeah, I'm very spoiled. I have been to many Disney parks in that time. But yeah, I shouldn't have favorites, but Walt Disney World
I
is my
mean,
favorite.
it's got the most stuff. So I mean, who
It's
can?
got the most stuff. It's the
You
biggest,
really can't compare it to the others, frankly.
You
It's almost
can't.
like the outlier.
You can't. And I think the park that I know the best, the resort that I know the best, is obviously Disneyland Paris, because it's the one that's closest to home. And actually, the similarities between Disneyland Paris and Disneyland were quite shocking to me. I was quite surprised. Things like the storybook canals, which you
Hmm.
don't have in Walt Disney World, you have those in Disneyland. And what's really interesting as well is, I don't know how familiar you are with the storybook canals, but there's a moment where you go into a cave and it's Monstro from Pinocchio. But in Disneyland Paris, that was built in 1992, it's actually the Cave of Wonders, and you go into the tiger's mouth. So there
Wow.
are a few things where, because of how similar they were, but also how well I know Disneyland Paris, I kind of picked up on these little nuances. And yeah, to your point about being the outlier, I think Walt Disney World and Disneyland are completely different. But
Hmm.
actually, yeah, Disneyland and Disneyland Paris are very similar. And I actually thought to myself, we've got this problem at Disneyland Paris where we've got this park called Walt Disney Studios that's just absolutely appalling. It's embarrassing to
It's
be
on the up
completely.
and up. Well,
It will be. It's getting Avengers Campus this summer. We're getting a Galaxy's Edge. We don't have a date yet. And we're also getting a Frozen Land. It'll be the first Frozen Land in the world. And I'm sure that will be a huge hit. So
mhm.
it's getting there. But I had this like crazy idea when I went to California Adventure. I was like, they need to make it like French Adventure. And they're almost there, right? They've got the Ratatouille ride and like the Parisian section. I was like, all they need is like Be Our Guest in there, like some
Yeah,
Beauty and the Beast, maybe some kind of nod to Hunchback of Notre Dame. Aristocats can go in there. Like there's enough IP that they could make this work. So
absolutely.
yeah, but no, we're getting Avengers Campus and Galaxy's Edge instead. And I'm sure they'll be great.
Look, every time we talk about Disneyland Paris, I get more and more excited to eventually go there. I didn't even know there was an Indiana Jones coaster there, and golly gee, I wish that Armageddon ride still existed. That I didn't know was a thing until a few weeks ago.
But I have to tell you though, this Armageddon attraction, like anyone that listens to the Theme Park Trader podcast, there is a British podcast, and they love to talk about this attraction because it was honestly like the worst thing ever.
What?
But yeah, it was so
I mean,
bad.
I
And
believe it, but I don't.
And the like pre-show, like towards the sort of 2010s, like 2013, 2014, the computer in the pre-show had just crashed. And it was like, I'm not exaggerating, it was like Windows 98. So you'd walk in
Oh
and there was just
my.
a large Windows 98 like desktop on a screen. Like I'm not exaggerating. But I loved that attraction because I love Armageddon, and it was cool. It was like, it's part of the backlot area, and you went on, and then like they were like, right, you're all extras in Armageddon, so we're going to tell you like when to be panicked and stuff like that. And there was fire, and there was like the Russian dude, and he was like telling you what was going on, and then like a meteor flew, and then the whole floor dropped. It was so great, but it had a very bad reputation.
Well, maybe one day it will get resurrected and get the
I sincerely doubt that. But it was so strange though, because this area of the park was just like a huge homage to Steve Tyler, because it was opposite the Rock and Roller
Yeah,
Coaster.
yeah.
And you've got like the Aerosmith song, and obviously Liv Tyler's in it. And I was like, this is just really weird.
Can never get enough Aerosmith. You're telling
So
me they played the song I mean, of course they did, right? Did it just play on loop the entire time
it
there?
played when you were in the queue, along with, you know, that really like dramatic music that like da da da, can really picture the Armageddon soundtrack right now. I loved that movie growing up. I remember it came up in conversation the other day. Actually, one of my old uni housemates was like, "Oh, I remember you used to make me watch that." My husband was like, "She made me watch that as well."
I'm gonna be honest, I've never seen it. I am looking forward to seeing it. So it's always been on my list for like
You've
15
never
years.
seen,
I've
you've
never seen
never
it. My wife had the same reaction like 2 weeks ago when she found out.
The problem is, Anthony, it's too late for you now, because what's so great about it is how awful but just how nostalgic, and you're not going to have any nostalgia now.
I'm trust me, I'm gonna enjoy it for other reasons.
Okay, okay. I'm a fan. I'm a fan. I won't let anyone say anything bad about that movie. I protect it at all costs. So yeah, I mean, hey, I love the fact that there are weird and wonderful attractions at all of these Disney parks. Some are great, some are terrible. And, you know, finding out that there's an Indiana Jones coaster, or there's an Alice in Wonderland dark ride, or there's a Little Mermaid dark ride. Like, I love how each park has these different things, and I guess that's one of the reason that I'm like, you know, it's my life's ambition to visit all 6 of them one day, because I just, that would be amazing.
Oh, what a wonderful goal. What a wonderful goal in life.
Hey, so Tash, my Chat Disney co-host, she's done that. She's done all
She's
6.
done all 6. She's been to Tokyo too. I mean,
Yeah,
and why not when you're in Shanghai? You might as well
this is
hop
it.
across there and get it done.
She went on her own. Literally, she knew she was coming back to the UK. She was, I think she went to Tokyo with people. I don't think she went on her own, but she was like, "I'm here. Like, I have to do this." So she actually did Tokyo on her own. I think, no, hang on, she did Hong Kong on her own.
Cool.
Hong Kong was on her own. Tokyo was with friends.
Well, Tokyo only gets better and better as I've discovered more
Oh,
on Disney TikTok. They now have the Toy Story Hotel out
yep.
there, and they have apparently a full, basically buffet restaurant devoted to the Mickey waffle. And if you could tell,
The
I was in
food,
heaven.
well, the food in Tokyo. So, if anyone listening is also, I mean, we're really branching out here. We've from Star Wars to Marvel and beyond. But if anyone's a Mario fan, the Nintendo Land at Universal Tokyo looks so good. And the food, they have like a bread bowl, like a chili bread bowl, and it's in one of the cool little toads, like the mushroom toad characters from Mario. And you
Wow.
take the toad's like head off, like the red and white spotty hat, and then it's filled with chili, and they've got like a dessert that's like one of those gold cubes that you like hit for coin. Like, it just looks, Tokyo are just, and they do, I don't know if you've ever seen the melon bread that they serve at Tokyo Disneyland.
Oh,
It's basically it's called melon bread. It's Mike Wazowski's head, but like really well executed. And they have like little Donald Duck and Mike Wazowski bao buns and dim sums. Like, the food in Tokyo is, again, just the food alone. I need to go.
wow. We're gonna have to do a whole debrief on all the very cool things to do at each park. It's more inciting, and it's just a rabbit hole. I could constantly just keep asking more and more questions
I
about this
know,
stuff.
right? I know.
Um, so back to California.
The
Um,
reason I'm here.
Coming full circle again. I imagine that downtown Disney, as it is
Mm.
only called in California now, will be immensely popular as well during the Star Wars celebration. What are some of like the can't miss restaurants, um, or shops that fans can like, what can they expect to see, and what should they go visit?
Great question. So, downtown Disney is quite small. And for those of you that have watched the Imagineering series, that won't come as a surprise. And it's actually one of the reasons that Walt and the Walt Disney Company built Walt Disney World, because they basically ran out of real estate.
Yeah.
So it is quite small and unassuming. And it's so weird. Like, I think this is the thing that will just shock you and surprise you the most. when I tell you that it's literally like coming out of your house, crossing the road, and there's downtown Disney, like you don't really know when you're in Disney and when you're not. It's so strange. And
Really?
yeah, it's really weird. And like there's literally like a CBS on the corner. Like it's really weird.
Hey, you gotta
And I
get your water
think,
somewhere.
well, there you go. And so I guess one of the issues that Disney, downtown Disney has, is that it's kind of competing with all of this stuff as well. There's a really nice little shopping, almost like a little, it's not really outlet, but there's a nice little shopping district just around the corner that I assume has probably profited from the fact that Disney is there. And
Mhm,
that's got some
mhm.
really nice shops like Bath and Body Works. And I think there's a Sephora there. Downtown Disney itself doesn't have an awful lot there, especially if you're used to Disney Springs or Disney Village or Disney Town or whichever Disney
Right.
shopping place you've been to. So I would say for me, the standouts, first of all, there's a place where you can get beignets. So if you do
Ooh.
go to New Orleans Square, and the queues are astronomical because it's the only place in the park that you can get beignets, then definitely don't panic, because you can get them in downtown Disney and they're a little bit cheaper as well. There's also on that place, sorry, I should mention, it's part of like a Mardi Gras bar.
Oh, is it the
And
Jazz Kitchen?
yes,
Got a
that's the one.
reservation.
Have you?
Yep.
Oh, amazing. So we went there. It's Mardi Gras themed, and we went there by happy accident. My husband was just like, "Oh, let's try and get a drink somewhere." And yeah, it's great. There's live music. As I say, it's jazz, New Orleans, like what's not to love? So that's definitely, I'm very pleased to hear you have a reservation, because I really liked it there. The other place as well, I want to say Marceline's Confectionery, but I'm pretty sure that that is the name of the confectionery store on Main Street USA in Orlando. And all
Yeah, I
these
think it is.
names right now are just all buzzing together. But I feel like maybe this is called Marceline's as well. Who knows? But there's a confectionery place in actual downtown Disney, and it's very, very similar to the kind of places you see in Walt Disney World, where you can see the cast members make like the Mickey toffee apples and the fudge and everything in the kitchen, but you can see it like just outside. You don't have to go into the store. So they just have this huge glass window, and I stood there for like probably about 15 minutes just watching them, fascinated. So
Wow.
that was really cool as well. For me personally, that was probably it in the way of shops. But one thing that I do want to say that I think is really, really important, especially for people that may have never been to Disneyland but have been to other Disney parks. So, something that I have always told people and just kind of always lived my Disney trips by is the fact that if I see a piece of merchandise, there's no point buying it there and then, because you've got to carry it around, whatever, and it's going to be in the world of Disney, right?
Hmm.
That is not the case in Disneyland. Again, it's much smaller. And so there isn't one kind of huge, mega, big world of Disney that sells absolutely everything. And I don't live with regrets, but I had a regret. So I the last time I was at Disneyland was the 2019 Food and Wine Festival, and I
Wow.
really wanted the ears there, because they change the food and wine ears every year. I love my mini ears, and they're really cool. They were sort of gold colored. They had this really lovely ornate sort of backdrop, but when you looked closely, it was all of the attractions in California Adventure. And then actually on the bow was a knife and fork, like a real 3D like knife and fork.
Ooh.
They're just really, really awesome. And of course, they say in huge letters, Disney's California Adventure Food and Wine 2019. It's like, you had to be there. So I decided I was going to buy these ears. And on the last day, we didn't have a park ticket for that day because we were going home, but we said we'd spend the day in downtown Disney and buy all our souvenirs, and couldn't, because you can only buy those ears at the food and wine kiosk in Disney's California Adventure. And that was the case for lots of things. There was a really gorgeous pin that I wanted that was a Disney D, and I couldn't get a hold of that. I actually managed to get it from one of the hotels in the end, but
Oh,
they weren't
great.
selling that. Yep, there you are. But they weren't selling that in downtown Disney either. So, and like I saw Pirates merch in the Pirates gift shop, and that's normal, right?
Mhm.
But at Disneyland Paris and at Walt Disney World, you'd see that same Pirates merch in the world of Disney or in another location. Not the case at Disneyland. The shops all sell exclusive merch. So if you see something you want, Please buy it. This is a happy story though, because a year later, one of my friends for my birthday managed to track me down a pair of the
Oh,
2019 Food and Wine ears. She is a legend. So it is a happy story in
I
the end.
I was gonna say I hope you got them, but because I could only imagine what that price is looking like on eBay to
Well,
on the
yeah.
secondhand market for them.
Yeah, I think she did get them for me from eBay, but as I say, like, she knew, I think, the pain that this had caused me, and I remember just being like to security, like, "But please," I was gonna give, like, a random person my credit card, and my husband's like, "No, no, no, we're not doing that." I was like, "But what if I," and then he's like, "No, you're not, this the moment has gone. They're not yours. You failed." I'm like, "But there must be something that I could do." And yeah, it was really, really awful.
You were going
But
to
yeah,
all lengths to get this.
oh, I was gonna get these ears, but yeah, as I say, I was at peace with it. And then yeah, my birthday, it was 2020, and it was during lockdown in the UK, and this package
Oh,
arrived and it had all the like US stickers on it. I was like, what the hell is this? And it was the 2019 ears.
see, best case scenario, you still got it in the end, and now you have a
Yeah.
wonderful story of the journey, the journey of it all. It means more now than it would have ever.
This is so true, but the lesson is
Just buy it
if you
first.
see something, honestly, and I never say this whenever anyone comes to me, "Oh, I'm going to Disneyland Paris for the first time." I'm always like, "Hey, don't buy it. You're gonna see the same stuff, like, again and again and again." No, not the case at Disneyland.
Let's say you can always pay off a credit card. What do they say? Calories don't count at Disney.
Oh, yeah.
You'll pay it off. You'll pay it off eventually. Just buy it. You'll find a way to get it home.
Money comes and goes, right?
That's right. You
D
can't take it with
calories
you. You can't take it
No.
with you.
Calories don't count at Disneyland because you do so much walking, right? So
Sure.
that's another thing that, is the same at Walt Disney World and Disneyland. You're going to be doing a lot of walking and arguably maybe a little bit more because you probably are going to want to park hop, especially, I don't know how many days you have on your trip, but you have 2 days.
Yep.
Okay, so you're probably going to just do one
We're
in
doing
each
one at
park.
each. Yep.
Okay, it's nice and sweet. But I think we had the last time I went 3 or 4 days perhaps. And of course, then you do your one in one park, one in the other. And then you're like, oh, but I want to do soaring, but I want to watch Fantasmic, but I want to. And that's where, the steps just start to soar.
Well, and then you realize you have to come back because there's just so much you will never be able to do everything every trip. And
This is
as you
so
mentioned,
true.
there's always cool stuff happening at various times of the year, right? For
Yeah.
example, when we're there, that's when they've turned Space Mountain into Hyperspace Mountain, so it's Star Wars themed. So we're gonna see that for
That's
instance.
cool. That's
Um,
nice.
Food and Wine Festival is popular anywhere in the world. I don't know if they have it anywhere across the seas. I know if they have it in Florida and California. So the fact that you got to go, that's really cool. I would love to hear
Yeah,
more about that
really.
if, one day eventually too.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to Walt Disney World's Food and Wine this year for the
Oh,
first time.
really? Well, you
Yeah.
time your trips at the right time.
I mean, I literally planned it to be Food and
You
Wine.
did. That was smart. We see it all the time. Like the ads, or it pops up on like a Disney Plus show or something like that. They'll advertise for it or talk about it to some degree. And my wife's always like,
Yeah,
"That's the
yeah,
best time to go."
yeah. Although now Food and Wine's like half the year. I think it
That's true.
starts in July now. So it's kind of, yeah, but yeah, it's my favorite festival. As I say, I've only done it at California, so very, very excited to do it in Epcot as well. But yeah, I think there'll be a lot of similarities, but I think that, with the context that you haven't been to a Disney park for 10 years, it's just going to be the most spectacular. And I don't even think it's necessarily attractions, right? It's just being there and the ambiance and the music and the shows. And yeah, I should have checked this before we started recording. I'm not sure if the shows are running. I feel like I read that they literally started running like last week, and I probably said it in the news section of my podcast, and my brain is like a sieve. But I know for a fact that the Main Street Electrical, I think, is back. But the Fantasmic and World of Color, if they are running, they are absolutely must-dos. They're just Fantasmic, you've seen. very similar to the Orlando version, but there is stuff that's better that I won't ruin. And World of Color is a really interesting one. And again, I won't spoil it, but just very, very unique, very different from any other show that I've seen at a Disney park. The technology is not new to me because they have started to leverage that
Hmm.
technology in other shows, but just very, very whimsy and yeah, must do.
Oh, incredible! Is Fantasmic the one in Hollywood Studios where it's like it's in its own kind of like amphitheater kind of thing where you're sitting there and then they do like all the water and lights and stuff like that?
Correct. Yes. But as I
I
said,
haven't seen it before actually. I almost got to see it. I almost got to see it. It's a wild story.
you've never seen. Oh,
So
okay.
the
This
first
is
time
the
I was there,
only
I don't
thing.
think they had it in 2006 or 7. I'm not sure if they had it then, or my mom didn't want to stay that late when we were there. So we probably had to vamoose back to the hotel. The second time I was there, it was with my high school. I was a part of the marching band and we did a show on Main Street. Like we did the Main Street Parade or whatever. That we did that thing. So um we were there the entire week there after Christmas, so we did all the parks and stuff like that. So I got to do it with all my friends, and that was really cool. But we were seated there because they were having us all do the Fantasmic. That's where we were meeting up, and then we'd go back to the car, like to the buses as a school. And we got there, and they're like, yeah, they said they'll start it in like 30 minutes from when they intended to start it because there were thunderstorms in the area. And we waited the 30 minutes, and then we got the 30 minutes later the call that they're canceling it for the night.
Oh,
As it starts, the heavens just start unloading on us, and I believe that was at the other end of the park from where the parking lot is. So all of us had to dash in the pouring down tsunami of rain that was drenching us all from all the way across the park. Yeah,
oh God, that sounds awful. And this story doesn't have a happy ending, I'm
it does
afraid.
not. Well, maybe it does 10 years later. Maybe
Well, it doesn't because I've just checked and I'm
no.
so sorry. It's the 28th of May. So you've just missed it. But
Well,
that means you have to go back.
another reason to go back, a reason to go to Florida. You know, there'll be a way. Now,
There'll be a
I
way.
assume you won't be able to see it from outside the park, right? It's not like a show
No.
well, I say because our hotel says you can see fireworks every night from the rooftop there.
Yeah, you probably can. I could literally, and again, this is the other thing about Disneyland that's wild, talking about proximity to just general Anaheim and everything. I could see the Guardians of the Galaxy mission breakout from the window of my
Neat.
hotel room, which is like just wild. Like that's never going to happen in any other Disney park around the world because the whole property and the land around the park is owned by Disney. But just, yeah,
Ugh,
very, very different in Disneyland.
so cool, and so unique. Well, Mercedes, we're at the last question of our journey here today. So, lastly, what I want to ask is if you could only do one thing in Disneyland, in the Disneyland area, California Adventure, Downtown Disney, Disneyland Resort, let's throw in the Disneyland Hotel and Grand Californian and what have you, parks, restaurants, shows, etc. You can only do one thing. What are you doing?
I think for me right now and where I'm at in my life, it probably no, it probably would be to stay at like the Grand Californian. And
Nice.
it's a weird one. I would change my answer depending on how I'm feeling in that moment. But I think I'm not going to say Galaxy's Edge because, fingers and toes crossed, I'm going to get to experience that later on in this year.
Yep,
And I think
absolutely.
something for me that I really enjoy taking the time out. And, I talk about this a lot, that not kind of rushing around and sitting in Main Street USA and actually looking up and seeing all of the different names on the window and wondering who those people were and why they were instrumental to the Walt Disney Company and going into that firehouse. That was just
Hmm.
amazing. And yeah, something that I've never done is stay at a Disneyland hotel in Anaheim. So for me, I would probably pick a night at one of the Disney hotels. Let's go with the Grand Californian because it's the original. And well, it's not the original actually, the Disneyland is, but it's like the best one, the most expensive one.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'd love to have like a really nice dinner, watch the fireworks out the window. I think that's what I would pick. And it's kind of, I actually asked this question on Twitter the other day. If you could have one night at any deluxe Disney resort in Walt Disney World, what would it be? That's kind of, yeah, where I want to get to Tokyo, I want to get to Hong Kong, but I also would love to just experience more of the parks. And I think that hotels are a really good way to do that.
Hey, the future is always in motion, and there's always something new to do at a park. So I hope that dream comes true for you in the very near future here.
I hope so too. It's a really difficult one, and again, I'm sure you experienced this when you were booking Disneyland. But again, because of the fact that you are staying at a hotel that is not on Disney property, but you can see the fireworks from your balcony. I could see the tower, the
Mhm.
Hollywood Tower, the Guardians overlay. I could see that from my room. The Disneyland hotels in Anaheim become a very, very hard sell because for a fraction of the price, you are over the road. It's
Yeah.
not like in Orlando where travel is difficult. There are lots of perks to staying in a Disney hotel in Orlando, proximity being the core one. That sell is gone at Disneyland. So yeah, hopefully one day, but yeah, we will see. Watch this space.
Well, that sounds amazing. And thank you so much, Mercedes, for coming on the show and giving us a rundown, a 101, if you will, a crash course in all things Disneyland. I appreciate it, certainly from my perspective. I hope our listeners do at home. But where can they find you and the fabulous Chat Disney podcast if they want to learn more about the wonderful adventures that are going on in your world and in Disney all over as time goes on?
Sure. So the Chat Disney podcast is available on all good places where you can get your podcasts of choice. You can find us on Twitter at Chat Disney UK and Instagram is at Chat Disney. And as the name suggests, we chat all things Disney, whether that's Star Wars, Marvel, Disney parks, Disney movies, Disney Plus. Yeah, come join us.
Fantastic. I could not plug Chat Disney enough. It's a fantastic podcast. You and Tash do amazing work over there. So go check them out, support them. And thank you, everyone at home, for listening. We'll be back next week, with a brand new episode. Thank you, and may the Force be with you.